Emily and welcome to Kapowski Reads. I'm giddy. I'm excited. This week I am planning to have a Gilmore Girls inspired week of reading because I had planned to do this in September when, it started to feel a little autumnal. However, just the weather we've been having, it didn't start to feel autumnal until, a couple of weeks ago. Going forward, ideally I would like to remember to do this round about maybe September, October, but we're doing it this year in November. So I'm a huge fan of Gilmore Girls. It came out in 2000 when I was 14. So I feel like I spent my formative years with Rory and Lorelai and Suki and Luke. And yeah, I know that the characters are not perfect, but I find it comforting and just it makes my wee soul happy. When I hear the theme tune, I'm like, oh, autumn. It just makes me so happy. This week I am planning to read some books from the Rory Gilmore Reading List. There is a lovely quiz. Somebody took the time to get all of the books mentioned in the entire series and put them all in a list, and you can just tick the ones you have read. And I will pop a link in the description for anybody who wants to have a wee look, see how many they've read. I have trouble remembering books that I've read if I read them before I used Goodreads. I cannot rely on my own brain for things. So I have only ticked the books that I know for certain that I've read. Not the ones I think I've read, but just the ones I know I have. And it worked out as me having read 43 books out of this list, which is 13%. I'm okay with that. So I had a little look on my TBR shelf to see, do I have any books that are on the Rory Gilmore reading list that I might want to read? And I did. I have a pile. So this is the pile of books that I already own and therefore want to read that are on Rory Gilmore's reading list. And my plan this week is I'm going to get through some. I have no set numbers. I'm going to get through some. I'm also planning to do some fun Gilmore Girls inspired activities, which are mainly just drinking coffee, which I normally do in abundance. I have convinced my boyfriend that we're going to go out for brunch, which is sort of our version of going to Luke's Diner, and I might go for a nice little walk. That's pretty much it. It's going to be cozy, low stakes, and maybe I will cook some things in homage to our girls Rory and Lorelai, but mainly Suki because she was the one that cooked a lot. And I have a pie recipe that I want to make. I've not made it for a long time, but I remember it being delicious. So yeah, I'm going to read books, I'm going to bake a pie. What more could a girl do? I am going to start with Deanie because it's on my TBR. So it makes sense, and it's so short that I know I can easily get this one read. I am then thinking I'm going to go between 100 Years of Solitude or Anna Karenina. Really make use of my time. I, at this moment in time, have an Instagram poll going on to help me choose which of those two that I'm going to read. Currently it's pretty much half and half, so I don't know. But I'm going to start with this, and then I'm going to move on. And I'm going to take you with me. Book 1 is finished. Yay! I finished Deanie by Judy Blume, and I liked it. I feel like it very much was a book of its time, and putting that light on achieved very little. We're gonna just continue. So this book is about Deanie, who finds out that she has scoliosis, and she thinks she's gonna have to need an operation, but ends up being told that she can have a brace instead. And it's just about her sort of coming to terms with the fact that she is going to need this brace to help realign her spine. She is 14. She is beautiful. Her mother always talks about how she's the face and her sister Helen is the brains. And it's just so heartbreaking to read about how this parent sort of compartmentalizes her children of like, well, you're smart, you're just pretty. And she's really pushing towards having Deanie be a model, and that's how they find out about the curvature in her spine. Deanie was a very shallow child. It's not her fault. You could see that came from her mum, because her mum just focused on her outer beauty. So Deanie did the same to other people, and she was very judgmental, very cruel. And in finding out that she needed this brace for her spine, she sort of became a kinder, more understanding person. And I really liked her character growth in such a short amount of time. Deanie was so filled with these fears that people were gonna ridicule her and abandon her because she needed a back brace. And I really liked that her friends were like, you're still the same person, you just have a back brace. And I thought it was really nice for her learning that people valued her for more than her looks. I ended up giving this 3 stars, which sounds like I didn't enjoy it, but I did enjoy it. It just was very, very of the time, and some things did not age very well in this book. But it was a fun enough read. I had a good time with it. I really liked the characters, and I really liked the narrative as well of, you know, you're so much more than your outer shell. I mentioned earlier that I've got an Instagram poll to help me choose which of my 2 biggish classics I'm going to be reading this week. That poll still got a few hours left on it, and it's still 1 vote in it. But the vote has now gone the other way. So last I checked, Anna Karenina was winning. Now 100 Years of Solitude is winning. So I can't start a book. Yeah, I can't start one of them yet because I don't know which one is going to win. Instead, I'm going to start a different book. I am going to start Galapagos by Kurt Vonnegut because I think I've read this before and it's very short. So by the time I finish this, my Instagram poll will have ended and I can start a classic and we'll go from there. But now I am going to go and have a little bit of a movie night in true Gilmore Girls fashion. I've got some nice treats. I've got some dessert sushi, which I ordered online because I remember the episode with the dessert sushi and it sounded so fun. So I looked up a recipe or just like a how-to, but there were so many like sweets on there that we just don't have in the UK. And it was going to be so expensive to get them. So I just bought a ready-made kit. It's not the same. It's mainly marshmallow based, I believe, but I love a marshmallow. I'll report back tomorrow, let you know if I have read this book and which classic has won and is going to get read. I went book shopping today and I bought a few books. That wasn't my plan. My plan was to just go and have a little look. Live my Rory Gilmore fantasy while wearing my really ugly like Mr. T necklace. I've been going through my old boxes and found some old jewellery and thought, do you know what? I need a necklace. I'll wear this. It's ghastly. I don't like it, but you know, here we are. It was me a long time ago. It's not me anymore. And that's fine. We grow, we change. So yeah, I went book shopping and let's do a little haul. I did not plan to buy any books, which is why I didn't take a bag with me. And then I bought 5. I'd planned to browse. So let's go through what I got. In true Rory Gilmore style, I went to just have a look, see what there was. I was kind of in the mood for some non-fiction because I like non-fiction, I just don't read a lot of it or as much as I would like. So I went with a book in mind. I know the book I want. I do not remember who wrote it, what it's called, or really what it's about other than it being about my home county of the Scottish borders. I remember the cover has a beautiful mural on it and I just thought, maybe there's a tiny chance that it will be here in Aberdeen over 100 miles away. It wasn't, but I did get 2 other non-fiction books that I think are going to be fantastic. I got some Scottish folk tales. I have a collection of Scottish folk tales, but it's about half the size. So I'm very excited to see if there are some new ones in here. I love a good folk tale and I've been reading a lot of sort of fantasy inspired by folk tales of different places that I thought I want to read some more Scottish ones. I also got Scottish Ghosts, which I know spooky season is over, but I probably won't get to this book until later on because I've got some priorities before the end of the year. I picked this because it does have a ghost story from my hometown of Peebles. There is a haunted pub, and the pub is in here, the Cross Keys. So I'm really excited to read this book and see if it's got the same story that I had passed down to me orally. So that's really exciting. And it's got a whole lot of stories set in places that I'm familiar with, and I love a good ghost story, even though sometimes they scare me a little bit. I was then making my way to the till, and I saw Witch of the Wicked by Danielle Page. This book is one of the most recent books added on to my TBR. I saw it on Instagram being raved about, and I thought, well, that sounds fantastic. I need it. And I saw it and it felt like fate because I just added it to my list. And there it was in front of me on a deal. It had to come home with me, and so it did. This is a fairy tale sort of reimagined, and it's from the point of view of the fairy godmother from Cinderella, which I believe is actually going to be a revenge tale. So I'm going in with not a huge amount of knowledge, but I really am loving. I love all of the sort of fantasy books that are reimaginings of stories that we know, but from either a point of view that wasn't in the original story, or like they take a sort of different twist on things. I love that. I love just the reimaginings, and there's something so like both nostalgic but also like really exciting hearing something that you've heard maybe before, but you're hearing it differently. So I'm excited. Now, I am Scottish, which means I love a bargain. And that book was in the buy one, get one half price deal. I had to have a look and see if there were any other books in that deal that I wanted. And there was. Old Acquaintance by Sophia Slater. This is a murdery book. It is a murder mystery set at a Hogmanay party, and there is a storm brewing, so people can't leave the party. So I think it's going to have a bit of a locked room element to it. And then I was done. I was going to the till with my 4 books. That was all I was taking home with me. And then who should be at the till? Is this a Christmas romance? It's a Christmas romance. Only on the Holidays by Abiola Bello. I love a Christmas romance. I love a Christmas mystery. I love a Christmas murder mystery. I really love a festive book. And what we have in this story is a girl who is taking a break from her relationship. She goes off to a small town. She meets a hunky guy in flannel, and they don't get on at first. No. But I think they're gonna fall in love. I think there's gonna be sledging. I think there's gonna be hot chocolate. There might be a food fight or a snowball fight. The classic Hallmark romance tropes. That's what I'm hoping I'm gonna get from this book, because that's what my heart wants going into December. On the back of the book, it does promise a happy ever after. So I think that this is a perfect winter read. This, I'm calling it now. This is going on my December TBR. Whether I can fit it in or not, I'm excited to read it. So these are my 5 new books. Do I think that Rory Gilmore would read any of these? I don't know. I think she would probably read the non-fiction, but I don't know how closely my and Rory's reading tastes really align, other than we both enjoy some of the same classics. When it comes to contemporary, our tastes are a little bit different, but who's to say? Because the Rory Gilmore Reading List only goes up to 2007 when the show ended. My reading taste at that point was different, so it would be very interesting to see what, you know, if Rory were real, what would she be reading now? And I like to think that she'd be a Mona Awad girl and a Sylvia Moreno Garcia girl, because I like those books. I am off to make some risotto. Not the magic mushroom risotto. I want to make magical mushroom risotto, much like Suki did, and the mushroom risotto that helped her mother get better and come back to health. But my boyfriend is allergic to mushrooms. So the mushrooms are going to be getting sauteed off to the side with some garlic, some tarragon, and then I'm going to chuck them on top of mine. I'm going to delicately place them on top of mine. I'm not going to chuck. I probably will just throw them on. I love risotto. I have a really good risotto recipe. It's one of my favorites, and it's just the most basic plain risotto because we've got some food preferences in this house. It's one that we all enjoy. So yeah, that's my plan for tonight. I am going to make that, and I am going to finish Galapagos by Kurt Vonnegut. I forgot, in my rambling, in my excitement of my books, I forgot to say which classic won the vote. So there was a vote up on my Instagram, a poll, to help me choose what chunky classic I was gonna squeeze into this vlog. I was between Anna Karenina and 100 Years of Solitude. And by 2 votes, 100 Years of Solitude won. This is the shorter book, which, considering I'm still reading my second book, I'm okay with. I'm kind of happy having a somewhat shorter book because I feel like maybe the font isn't too wild in this book. I think I should be able to get this done before the end of this reading week. I will be back next time to give you my review on Galapagos. I have now finished book number 2, Galapagos by Kurt Vonnegut, which is the book that I thought I had read. And upon having finished it, I haven't read it before. I think I've read the first couple of chapters and then put it down with an intent to come back to it as often is the way. But I haven't finished this book before today. This book is basically a love letter to Charles Darwin. And it's about sort of evolution. There is a boat, a cruise that is about to take place, and circumstances happen which result in the people on that cruise having to basically form their own society. And life as we know it evolves from that point. They end up on this really rugged landscape that kind of has no resources, and they are forced to adapt to their new surroundings. It is all told from an omnipotent ghost who is witnessing this entire happenstance. And it's so unusual a book. It's very odd. It's actually set way, way in the future. So this ghost is just remembering everything that happened to these people, the collapse of society, and humanity had just evolved into these sort of seal-like beings with flippers. There are cannibals that are not overly utilised. So if you're a little bit squeamish, it does mention that this book includes cannibals. They eat a dog. So bear that in mind if you're a dog lover and you don't want to read that. It's not in graphic detail, but it is included. I didn't love this book. I did like it. It was fun. It was bizarre. I really like books that are unusual and really make me think, and this did, but I didn't love it. I didn't really get to know the characters as much as I would have hoped. I sort of ended the book being like, well, that was really imaginative and an interesting concept, and I loved the point of view from this ghost. But I was sort of left being like, I wish I knew more about the people that were involved. I enjoyed the way that the author gave little asterisks next to the characters who were doomed, I say, to be exiting the book pretty shortly after. Something I did really enjoy about this book though was there is a machine which is called a mandarax, which is kind of like a computer that gives quotations from literature. And this computer is pretty wise. It keeps coming up with very relevant quotations for the situations that they're in. So I really liked having that callback to classical literature. It was short. It was I mean, was it sweet? There were some moments in this book that gave me a bit of the ick, mainly to do with the ages of some of the people who were repopulating the wee island that they ended up on. That gave me the ick. So it wasn't sweet. It was short. It was a quick read. It was a wee bit mad, but I had an okay time with it. Just a really quick update this morning. We are just getting ready to go to Books and Beans, which is our local kind of breakfast or lunch place, but we are going for brunch. I love that place. They have secondhand books, just shelves and shelves of secondhand books, and their food items they've all got literary names. So all of their sort of cooked breakfasts are named after Scottish authors. Their pancakes are all Alice in Wonderland inspired, and it's just really good food. So that is where we are off to. And I just wanted to give a little update of 100 Years of Solitude. I am 50 pages in, and it took me 2 hours to get 50 pages in. I don't know if I'm going to have this book finished before the end of this week because it is a slow read. I don't know if I'm enjoying it. I mean, I think if I was to determine my level of enjoyment of this book right now, it would be pretty low, but I'm only 50 pages in. There's so much left of the book, so there's so much more opportunity for this book to improve for me. I'm finding it very confusing. There are a lot of people with the same names, and there's a family tree at the beginning of the book, but that just means that I keep flipping back and forth to just check, is this the granddad? Is this the son? Who is this? There are some moments in this book that I have gotten the ick. So I don't know. I'm toying with the idea of, I do really want to read this book, but do I maybe put a pin in it and come back to it another day, and for the purposes of this vlog, find another book that I know I can finish? I don't know. That seems like that's a decision that I need to make after I've had breakfast. And I'm gonna have breakfast and lots of coffee. But I'm also just gonna spend the day with my boyfriend, and it's gonna be lovely, nice and relaxing. And I will then decide what I'm gonna do with this book later. But yeah, first, breakfast. Some days have passed since I last updated. In that time, I have baked a pie. It was delicious. It was far too sickly. I replaced a layer of peanut butter with Biscoff. I think it was too much. It might have been a little bit too much, but it seemed to go down well in our house. I also ended up getting a little bit unwell from existing in the outside. I got a bit sick. So I'm filming this quite a few days later, but I have finished Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. I finished this a couple of days ago and I really enjoyed it. This is my standout book from my week of reading, a la Rory Gilmore. So she has far more polished hair than I. And this is a classic. This is set in a futuristic world where people are genetically engineered. People don't tend to be born, they are created in basically factories, and they are assigned their role in life. And we meet a man who thinks a little bit differently, and he sort of starts to think that maybe the way that things are is not the way that things should be, sort of challenging the status quo, and people think he's a bit unusual. I really enjoyed this book. I thought it was outstanding. I really enjoy reading when you read a historical book, a classic, and it references things that you just sort of think, how did you come up with that? This book came out like 4 years after the invention of penicillin. Like, how are you thinking about genetic engineering? It's just amazing the amount of things that are referenced in this book that would have just felt so outside of the box, such wild thinking at the time. And reading it now, it's like, well, these things kind of exist. Not to the standard in this book, but I was so impressed at just the plot of this book. It was so thought-provoking and so like, this is the future that was imagined as being just so out there 90 years ago. And just makes me wonder, what are people going to think of science fiction that's written now? Were they going to think of it in 90 years if we haven't ruined everything by then? I can't believe that I haven't read this book before. It's something that I know that young me would have really just loved. And old me enjoyed it too. I feel like this was definitely my favourite from this week of reading. So I made my way through 3 books from the Rory Gilmore Reading List. I have made some more progress in 100 Years of Solitude, but not enough for me to consider it as being almost read. I'm getting there, but I'm getting there slowly, and I'm still not overly loving it. But it is a book that I want to finish before the end of the year. I think that going forward, when I do a week of Gilmore Girls inspired reading, I don't think I'm going to read books solely from the Rory Gilmore list because our reading tastes don't overly align, and I think it would be good to maybe find books that I would recommend to Rory if she were real and I knew her, or just books that give me those small town cozy vibes. But that's something for me to think about next year. This year, I've got 1.5 million books left to read and not a lot of time to do it. I'm also starting to lose my voice again, so I'm going to finish off now, and thank you very much for watching, and